maybe we'll have a viewer. So yeah, about that blizzard. About that blizzard that I'm still waiting on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a couple friends who are out on like out in New Jersey and things like that, and so
the East Coast is legitimately awful right now. Like New York, I thought it was so weird because like New York shut down the traffic, right? State of emergency. You're not going anywhere. You can't take the train, can't take the bus, can't drive, can't do anything. We're shutting down the traffic. I thought like the Museum of Modern Art apparently is in denial about the whole thing because I was cycling through Tumblr this morning, and MoMA was like, "We're open. The weather is awful, but we're open." And I'm sitting here like, I'm like, how the hell are you gonna get there?
I know.
Maybe they open out of desperation. It's like keep us company. We've been sleeping with it. We've been sleeping on the visitor benches for a day.
That's what happened. They just kind of got stuck.
Cabin fevered. I'm waiting for the obligatory. It's always an awful situation. Like they got a pretty hefty blizzard a couple of years ago, I think. But like when it flooded, that was legitimately awful. But I'm waiting for the inevitable BS photoshopping of the disaster.
Yeah.
Like the ones when it flooded, when it showed like the scuba divers diving in the trains. I'm just wondering what the 2016 Blizzard Photoshop meme is going to be.
Oh man, I don't know.
But yeah, we didn't get weather. We got the mass panic that comes with a blizzard, but we didn't get a blizzard, which is kind of justified in Birmingham because I think it was like 2013 they got like 3 feet of snow or such in like a day or so. Maybe it was more. I was in Huntsville at the time. I was blissfully unaware of the situation, but apparently it gave everybody in Birmingham like post-traumatic stress. So like every time they mention cold weather, it's like they have like a citywide riot and they're buying like bread and milk and they're like, we got to huddle down. People are calling into work. People are taking off early. Like every single time it mentions cold and wet in the same sentence.
That's kind of a typical Fort Wayne thing. As soon as we know a blizzard's coming, everybody rushes to the store to get bread and milk.
Yeah, which I mean let's be honest, like if it like it's better to be preemptively cautious, I guess, than be like, oh shit, we're sleeping in our offices today, because apparently that happened in 2013. People were like stuck in their cars. It took like 6 hours to drive a mile. People were sleeping and people had to trek back to their offices in the snow because they just abandoned their cars. Like it was legitimately awful for what it was. I mean, it was completely unexpected. The city didn't have the resources to really deal with it very quickly or efficiently, so it's bad. But it seems like in the 2 years I've been here, it seems like everybody, like I said, like every time they mention cold weather, people are like, oh god, not again.
Ooh, it's just mentioning they weren't used to planning it. That's one of the things is us here in Indiana, we looked at that and we're like, dude, guys, we get this every winter. What is going on?
Yeah.
Just fine.
When I worked the first job I had at Birmingham, the IT director that I worked with lived in Chicago, and my boss lived in San Francisco, and I'm down here in Birmingham, and I remember because San Francisco doesn't really have weather per se. Like I've been there 3 times. I've never seen a real weather condition besides hefty fog. But like I remember she was calling in. She's like, "Yeah, I'm working from home today." And my boss is like, well, "Why are you working from home? Why aren't you in the office?" And she goes, "Well, I would drive to work, but there's 6 feet of snow outside everywhere, and I really don't want to shovel." Which is fair.
Yes.
Marcus, I don't suppose you've experienced any of what is it, Winter Storm Juno?
No, not any.
Juno. Juno is Jonas, like Jonas Brothers. I don't suppose California has gotten a whiff of that yet, have they?
No. Well, here in the Central Valley, we don't get snow.
Yeah, I was
but
about to
we
say
have
snow
gotten quite a bit.
Yeah, I was about to say snow in any part of California is probably like an apocalyptic situation.
Yeah, that's only up in the mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're up in Yosemite, Shaver Lake, and around stuff. But we have been getting a lot of rain, so that's that's the good part right there.
That's good. I wonder, but definitely not enough to deal with the. We haven't talked about this. Are you guys experiencing the drought situation they're having in like San Francisco and other parts of the state, or are you guys pretty fine as far as that goes, or how is it? How is life in potentially totally drought-stricken California?
Well, yeah, the drought did hit us pretty hard these past couple of summers, but this winter has been pretty good. We've gotten quite a bit of rain, so yeah, that's a good thing, and hopefully we'll be getting some more. We got some clouds coming in right now, so it's possible we could get some more rain in here.
Good. It's always a plus.
Oh yeah, especially right now. There was so much dry grass around the area, and it just really hit us.
Yeah, it's droughts. Droughts are probably. I heard myself. That's weird. Droughts are probably the worst kind of weather conditions you can experience. That's weird. That's a weird out of body feeling. Because like I remember backpacking in New Mexico and during the drought in 2001, and I remember seeing like topping the ridge of a mountain and seeing like one of the other mountains like completely on fire because of a drought. Somebody had like done the thing where they start forest fires by like throwing out a cigarette, or it's one of those things they just like the California wildfires, like no one knows how it happens, but it's so weird to be in the middle of backcountry and see that, and that was my first experience with droughts. It's like, wow, this really can just spontaneously combust, can't it?
Oh yeah, it seemed like anything could spontaneously combust. This last summer, me and my uncle had gone to the old Air Force Museum up in Atwater, and it was the grass was just so dry. I mean, they had signs posted, excuse the yard because the drought and like that, and there was so many goat head thorn stickers on the grass. And you can walk anywhere and then walk onto concrete, and your bottom of your feet are just crunching off. They're breaking off the thorn.
It's just that dried off, yeah.
Yeah, and just make sure you didn't fall, or else you.
Ooh, yeah. Grievously injured. Yeah, I guess that's when you start looking at alternatives to grass, like creeping ivy or all the stuff they put in HGTV. It's like you invest in that because you're tired of seeing the grass, the dead grass. I remember Adam Savage on Still and Todd was talking last year. There was a service somewhere around either LA or San Francisco that would basically they wouldn't water your grass, of course, because that was illegal, but they would basically come out and spray paint your dead grass so it looked bright green and lush, but it was still crumbling and dying. It just didn't look as bad. But that's gotta be a depressing thing to see dead grass.
Oh yeah, and it's even more depressing when you go to the lakes and you see them so low, with water. And because we got 3 lakes close to the area, and 2 of them were really bad, and the third one wasn't real bad, but it was.
That's kind of like my apartment, except it's dry because maintenance never waters it. We have a self-imposed drought. So, hello everybody. Welcome again to Radio Free Geek. I totally forgot the title of my own podcast. We bring you news, we bring you commentary, we bring you all kinds of goodies in the nerd world and beyond, and geeks. Every corner, yes, and the weather report. There is still, no matter what we say, because we are not licensed or trained, no matter what we say, there is still a 100% chance of weather. So keep that in mind, and there's your encouragement. But yeah, seriously, the East Coast. I saw a GIF, or GIF, however the hell you want to say it. I'm done arguing. From the International Space Station, they had time lapse. The blizzard kind of encroaching on New York, and that thing was huge. It was basically like the entire East Coast all at once. I mean, it was ridiculous. It's like that. I want to say Nicolas Cage, but I know he's not in it. The Day After Tomorrow, where it just kind of snows everywhere all at once. Second Ice Age. I'm sure that's East Coast mentality right now. It's awful. It's cold out here too, but it's like wet and cold. It was interesting Friday because it was snowing, and it was snowing. I was on the 12th floor of the building at UAB, and I was like, oh man. So I like went down to the bottom floor to get a photo for like our Instagram, and I go outside, and it's snowing on the 12th floor. When you get to the first floor, it's raining. Like you can see it fall, but it melts that instantly when it actually fell.
Oh wow!
So that was a very scientific thing, and then we're like, it's an alley of tall buildings. It was really weird because it has its own wind patterns, and most of that's circular. And I remember looking at the window like an hour later, and it was snowing bigger, but the wind had kicked up and it had started kind of spinning the snow. So you look at the window and the snow was falling down and up at the same time because of the accidental wind tunneling. I would have hated to walk through that.
Wow.
But yeah, 20-ish mile an hour gusts. It's kind of impressive. I forgot to take I was Instagramming slow motion videos on Friday, and I totally forgot to take a video of that one. That would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been cool to see. Yeah, I was going through my Facebook earlier, last night or this morning, and one of my friends that lives back east, he had to dig out his car out of I think it was like 6 feet of snow or something like that.
It's ridiculous.
It pretty brutal. I'm not sure where he lives. I don't know if it's New York or somewhere. He lives somewhere back east, but yeah, he put a couple of pictures up, and it was quite a bit of snow.
Yeah, I wonder if someone. I remember a couple of people were doing time-lapse videos of it flooding New York when that happened. I wonder if somebody. I mean, somebody somewhere has got to have it, but I don't know if they ever published it. But I wonder if someone made like a time-lapse video of the snow, because that would just be. I don't know. It's interesting. It's just to see it because it got so much in like an hour. It was just ridiculous. And then there was what wasn't it? There was a second one today, right? Kind of just massive accumulation because then they open travel and then they're like, well, it snowed again, so shut down travel again. It's an awful situation. Obviously, East Coast is under state of emergency, so when they have cabin fever, they can listen to us talk about it. Awful situation. Hopefully, no one. I haven't heard of any injuries
There are currently 27 confirmed deaths, according to the Weather Channel.
That's 27 more than I was aware of. That's awful.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
It says at least 27 dead due to Winter Storm Jonas.
Jeez. Which is, I guess, a lot fewer than it potentially could be, but that's still 27 more than it needed to be. So.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's awful. Yeah.
Did you guys see on Facebook some man was brought back to life after freezing to death?
No, maybe this is maybe it's a cryogenic test subject gone wrong, or was it part of the blizzard, or
I don't know. I think it was part of the blizzard. I just read the headline, and they showed a picture, but it just said some man was brought back to life after freezing, after freezing to death. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess they got back to him in within the right amount of time to bring back. I wonder if they say if it made a full recovery, or
if there's any brain damage at all. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know. Because I know that sometimes that does, or oftentimes that does, like really irreversible stuff. Horrible, kind of like having a stroke or drowning for a minute. It always kind of.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it may be too early to know. I don't know.
Yeah, could be.
I don't know. It's amazing. Modern medical technology, and I appreciate this. I don't know if I mentioned it on air last night or last week, but we were off for a week because I had tearing on my eyeballs from my vision correction therapy, and it's amazing what modern technology can do. Because I remember, if that had happened 10 years ago, I would have had to have massive. It's amazing the correction that can do. It's also amazing like the healing when you have grievous eye injuries, because that could have been a significant vision loss kind of situation. It would have taken months or weeks to heal up, and within like a week and a half, I'm 100% fine. So that's modern medical technology is just amazing.
True that.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you doing better. Good.
Yeah, no more soreness. Which, according to the my ophthalmologist, that's apparently the initial soreness was the injury, and then the latent soreness was my eyeballs repairing themselves. So when I don't feel soreness, that means that I'm fully okay, which I'm okay with because I don't feel anything anymore. I become comfortably numb, as Pink Floyd likes to say.
Are you gonna try to go back to
the
contacts? Oh, okay.
No, that's one of those things, and that's it's one of those issues where like I totally did it because of just reasons. I had in 2012 when I did the first half of 2012, I had gotten out of a relationship, a long-term relationship, and I'm like, well, revenge makeover, whatever. So I lost a lot of weight and stuff, and I did stuff for wholly selfish reasons, and one of them was getting rid of glasses for no good reason. Because I didn't really need to, but I'm like, well, I look better without them, I guess. So I bought it and used it, and for 3 years it worked fine, and then this happens. But the point is, it's one of those things that if you don't follow like a strict regimen, kind of like post LASIK and pre LASIK surgeries, if you don't follow like a strict regimen to get ready and deal with it, like you're going to screw yourself over. And I don't want to risk it again.
Doesn't seem worth it.
Yeah, I don't want to risk it again because if it had torn on a certain part of my eye, like it could have healed, but it would have compromised the vision. So that to me is enough of a, it's like having a heart attack when you're smoking. That to me is enough of a warning to not do it. So there you go. And they were even talking about like custom-made lenses, or what they call sclera lenses, which are the weirdest things in the world. They cover like the entire front of your eye. They are really weird. But they were talking to me about like alternatives that are like safe as can be, and I'm just like, no, I don't want anything on my eyes for like at least a year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to Lens Crafters basically tomorrow. I've got a pair of sunglasses. I'm getting lenses put in that so I can look cool again while I'm driving in the blazingly bright sun, because Birmingham decided to get sunny again after it got rainy for a month. So that's my story. So there's quite a bit that happened in the news.
Yes.
We are. We're not like I mentioned last week. We're not going to talk about most Star Wars rumors because they are patently stupid. But I do really want to make fun of Snoke for a minute because apparently it's not enough for Andy Serkis and Lucasfilm just to say that Snoke is his own character. It's they didn't know what he was going to look like or his backstory before they started filming or developing. But people in lieu of that have been providing their own fan theories about it, and the latest one is that Snoke is in fact Jack Stay on Target Porkins from Episode 4, who, if you don't know him, you obviously haven't watched Episode 4. He is the guy who's basically scolding. I don't think he's scolding Luke, but he's scolding the rest of the guys. Stay on target, and then gets blown up. So apparently, this theory is that he somehow survived, inexplicably blamed Luke Skywalker for getting blown up, and joined the Imperial Army and became Snoke. And that is it.
Wow, I haven't heard that one.
The circumstances for it are kind of like flat Earth truthers. It's a lot of convenience that leads to one specific thing that doesn't make any sense otherwise. But that's the best one. And then there is the one that you found, Jesse, which was what was it again?
Okay, so the idea behind this one is that Rey is actually reincarnated Anakin Skywalker, and so the idea here is he obviously messed up. He didn't fulfill his promise as he was supposed to as the chosen one. So he has been brought back as Rey to live in purgatory on a sandy planet because we all know he hates sand, only to be able to be put in a position where he can actually do what he was supposed to do, which was bring complete balance to the Force. So there's that.
There's that.
It's supposed to explain how Rey has certain, like, she knows things, which, again,
well, she's a Force prodigy, basically.
Yeah, which we've talked about how, you know, just the fact that she lived the way she did and she was raised the way she did really explains a lot of what the moviegoers have complaints with her about. I mean, if you just know her backstory, it's not like she learned how to be a pilot overnight. It's not like she learned how to do fighting overnight. Really, her Force powers are the only unique thing to happen to her in the movie. But so that's what they were kind of, because Anakin was a really good pilot. He was a very good mechanic. He built C-3PO. Very strong with the Force. So that's where the correlation kind of comes from there.
Yeah. Also kind of ends with this too.
Well, you know, being a good pilot can go either way. I mean, Luke and Han are both good pilots, and you know, the Force being in the family. I mean, whether she's Luke's daughter or Han's daughter, I mean, this still has Leia's blood in her, if that's the case, you know. So
yeah.
I mean, that theory kind of, I don't know about that one.
Well, the biggest thing here is that there's no indication of reincarnation even being a thing in the Star Wars universe.
Not at all.
We have Force ghosts, but we don't have any indication that people can come back like that. So I mean, it's kind of like before. You're grasping at something that would have to have a certain thing happen in order for it to be true. But anyway, that was my favorite one, was that Anakin was reincarnated as a girl. I was like, oh, hey, that one's cool. Good job, Internet.
Yes. And then the ones who are, and then the latest one on top of crazy, to top the crazy cake, is that Snoke is Kylo Ren from the future, who somehow finds a way to time travel to intercept himself in the past so he can complete his own training from his future self to his past self.
Well, there's your favorite subject, Robert, time travel.
Right? I mean, you know, time travel is my jam. I like time travel movies when they're done right. I fucking hate Terminator Genesis because they didn't get time travel right at all, even in their own explainable physics. Like there's a movie coming out now called Synchronicity, where it's based on the gimmick from Back to the Future 2, where you can where Marty McFly is watching the original movie from a different perspective. You know, it's like don't see yourself, but it's like the whole movie is based on that one kind of gimmick. Anyway, love time travel movies. Primer, Looper. Oh, anyway, 12 Monkeys. Oh my god. But time travel has never existed within Star Wars.
Yeah.
Ever.
Absolutely.
I mean, sure there are things like Force mummies and stuff that go forward through time for a few thousand years. No one's ever gone back. So I've got feelings about that one.
Well, that's kind of like the reincarnation idea. I mean, there's nothing in the canon or the mythology to suggest that even exists.
Yeah.
In it. Not to mention, I mean, you got to be really careful when you start things like reincarnation and time travel, because then it's like, well, why doesn't somebody just go back in time and kill Anakin's mother? And
that's how they got the Death Star plans. Rogue One didn't need to happen. Right. Yeah, it's very, and especially when you add things in and then do something else where you have to re-explain it, kind of like the growing pains that Marvel is going through, where, you know, they've made a very, very, very big point in Thor and also Dark World, where, you know, basically science that can't be explained by someone else is magic. basically they were explaining that there's no magic in the Marvel universe. Well, now we have, the Sorcerer Supreme himself, Doctor Strange, coming out this year, and suddenly there's magic. And fans are making note of that and also taking issue with it. So even when and that's just a small oversight, relatively speaking, arguably small oversight. So when you add something that's never been addressed before, it's like, well, what are you doing?
And you're right.
Like the midichlorian thing from episode 1. Remember the reaction from that?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I was going to say about the magic and Marvel. They had a chance to explore it, with Iron Man 3.
Oh yeah,
because,
yeah.
And
it was a total cop out.
Right. They
turns
didn't
out he's just a drunk, druggy dude.
Yeah, a lot of people were upset with that. And wanted to see the Mandarin, the way he should have been. And I was even waiting for it too, and nothing. No magic. Nothing, and so yeah, I mean, they did try and steer away from it, but now they don't have a choice. I mean, how are they going to do Doctor Strange?
Yeah, and I kind of have a theory about the Mandarin in general, because they had the 10 rings they had the 10 rings in the original Iron Man. That was the pardon me, that was the terrorist group that captured Tony Stark, that made him build a missile, that made him do all the stuff that led to his hero's journey as Iron Man, right? Obviously that's a real organization. Obviously that's not just Ben Kingsley and some strippers in Florida. That's an actual organization, and they had an actual agenda, and they have an actual purpose. Which basically is being a bunch of terrorists. Now, you could just say that that's the analog of terrorism, that you had to have, being in the Middle East, you had to have a terrorism analog. But the fact that it's called 10 rings, I think what is his face? I should know this, but I haven't talked about him in so long. But you have I know him. I know his name. He's famous. What's his name? Oh God, Guy Pearce. You have Guy Pearce and Ben Kingsley, who just kind of hijack the. It's like I haven't talked about him since what is that movie, Prometheus, right? Because I haven't watched anything with him in it. But they basically hijacked the Ten Rings name and potentially the Mandarin for their own little gain, to kind of cover up the fact that they're blowing people up with extremists, right? So the actual legit Mandarin could be somewhere, and given Doctor Strange's paradimensional wizardry that he does in the comics, if they do that and introduce like multi-dimensional stuff, which would be a cool way to bring X-Men over if they ever get that shit worked out. What's to say that there's not a parallel dimension version of Mandarin, or a Mandarin that's already in the world that is the legit magic wielding Mandarin? Like, how cool would it be if he was one of the catalysts for Doctor Strange to become Doctor Strange? Be perfect time to introduce him.
Yeah, that's a cool and interesting idea. I like that.
Yeah.
Because
I've got a theory that this is going to open the gateway for Nico Minoru, for anybody who's ever used magic in Marvel, and that's a good thing. I mean, it's great to have more abstract heroes, kind of given the bigger the small screen. I'm kind of excited for that, because Nico is one of my absolute favorites, as the Runaway and then Young Avengers and just everything she's been in. Damn you, Brian K. Vaughan.
Well, I liked that Ben Kingsley as the Mandarin in the role he played. They showed him as a wimpy, guy, and I was like, then I got kind of disappointed. I mean, he was still funny, but was at the beginning of the movie and stuff made it more interesting and stuff. And I was really, really, really hoping, that he would come out strong there at the end, and he didn't,
The thing that I think is great about him is they almost made him, if you think about it, he's the only villain besides Loki who has survived any of the movies. But they actually almost had a scene in it because he's drugged out, right? He's always like, hey, if it's a needle, I'm gonna stick it in my arm. They actually had a cutscene where he randomly injects himself with extremists and blows himself up in the last part of the movie. Can you imagine that? But it's interesting leaving him alive. Either he's a loose end they didn't think ever needed tying up, or he's potentially going to do something else, and even as a cameo. But I like that. It doesn't have to. Being a shared universe, you don't have to leave. You don't have to put all the genies back in the same bottles when they end, because they could potentially pop up somewhere else. Because and that's what Marvel's always been good at doing, is kind of referencing other things. Even with Winter Soldier, they referenced Doctor Strange even back then, and people are like, "Holy crap!" That's first mention they ever got that Doctor Strange could be a quantity in the Marvel universe, which is pretty cool. Speaking of movie universes, Star Wars, people are freaking out so bad because Star Wars got delayed. Have you guys heard this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was one of the heartbroken.
One of the heartbroken. Yeah, it has been. I think its initial release date was in the middle of May. Late May of 2017.
Yeah.
Been pushed back to a very Force Awakens-ish premiere date of December 15th, 2017. No one has really fully explained why. There is a pardon me, I'm always dried out when I do this. No one has really explained why they pushed it back. One of the writers was saying that they had that it was due to the overwhelming response to Finn and Rey. They decided to do some last-minute rewrites. Raggy? Rewrites to the script to make up for that. Originally, there were some secondary characters that were going to take more of a center stage in Episode 8, and they decided apparently to, if the rumors are correct, to make room for more Finn and Rey, which to me is always a good thing. But it makes me wonder how much restructuring they've. Of course, filming has not begun yet, so you don't have to worry about that. But it makes me wonder just how much restructuring they did to the movie and whether or not that's a good thing. What do you guys think?
I don't think it could be. It could be a bad thing depending on what the original direction was, of course. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things where they really didn't know if people were going to latch on to the new characters or not, mm-hmm. especially since they were right next to the older characters. So I think that it seems natural that they were planning on not making the new three the focus of the movie. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't surprise me at all that this happened. And I am really glad that there was such a positive reaction to both Finn and Rey, because I love them. I think they're great additions to the Star Wars universe. So I'm pretty happy to see. I think, especially since the backbone, kind of, I don't know. I think that keeping it focused is probably a good thing. Yeah, we might miss some of these new characters, but at the same time, I mean, you gotta be really careful about. Especially in movie universes, it's not like a book where you can have 20 million characters and keep track of all of them. Game of Thrones!
Well, to be fair, Game of Thrones also kills off most of them, so you always have to keep a fresh supply on hand.
But it's one of those things with a movie, you really risk losing, especially when there's distance between the movies, losing continuity with your audience and their ability to keep up with the characters,
especially with Rogue One coming out, which is a prequel several decades before this one. So it's very easy to, like you said, to muck up the continuity, not intentionally, but to just confuse the hell out of people.
Yeah, I mean, people are already kind of like, who's this Van Syndo's character? I mean, people are already got. Yeah, everybody's got. There's already plenty of open-ended characters that they established, and I think, I mean, the only thing you're going to get by throwing a bunch of characters in a Star Wars movie is just a large amount of action figures.
It's true.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very true, and it's interesting, as we said last week, because they've done a really good job of, like, you see Snap Wexley in Force Awakens, and not by name, but you know, you can identify him in the visual dictionary, action figures or whatever, action figure plug. But he's actually the son of characters who were in Star Wars Aftermath, which is the first book that they wrote for the new kind of cinematic universe canon. And it'd be interesting to see if they do any of those little in jokes with Rogue One, to be like, you know, this is all part of the same universe, and here's what they did before Force Awakens. They're doing that in a lot of ways with the forthcoming media they're doing. Poe Dameron's got his own comic book series now, which is pretty cool. The artwork looks great from what they've shown so far, which is fantastic. So it wouldn't surprise me at all for them to kind of do those little nods. It's like you know who this person is. You know, here's what they did, you know, 30, 40 years ago. But it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be really hard. Movies have to have a certain kind of streamlining to them, just so you don't confuse people. And
well, and I know that argument was always made with the Harry Potter series.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had to cut so many characters just to keep everybody. And when they did try to introduce all those characters, people they weren't able to, how do you want to say, latch on to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a TV show. Arguably, I read an article talking about how Harry Potter probably should have been a TV series,
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the breadth of the story and characters. But with
especially
movies,
the later ones, my goodness.
Yeah. So I think this is probably for the better. I know I want to see more of John Boyega and Daisy Ridley in these characters. I think they did a phenomenal job. I want to see more Oscar Isaac because he was so dreamy. So, oh my gosh.
Jesse is okay that they didn't kill Poe Dameron off in Episode 7.
Okay, so true story. When I first saw Poe Dameron, I was like, "Ugh, I'm not gonna like him." I don't know what it was. I think it was how he fit in the helmet. Because the first time we saw Poe Dameron, it was
because they look so small in their heads. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't look. He did. I mean, He looked. He looked. How do you want to say?
Dorky.
I don't know. There was just something. There was just something like. He looked like he had a bad smell under his nose. It was like he had resting bitch face, but the guy version of it.
What is that? What is that called? Like resting bro face or whatever the hell it's called?
I wasn't impressed. And if you ever see the official like Poe Dameron picture, they shot it from a high angle. Hold on, there I've got a picture, and I'm gonna put it in as a link. They shot it at a high angle, so he just kind of looks awkward. And it appears on all of the merchandising material for him. Like, every time you see Poe Dameron, it's this freaking picture. And I hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. And so I didn't think I was going to like him. There was just something I was like, eh. And then I saw the movie, and I'm like, oh my god, I love him. So I'm happy to see that he's going to be in the movie more.
Yeah. Always a good thing, and hopefully the rewrite is always a good. I can't talk today. Damn, is always going to be a good thing. A lot of people are concerned that it's competing with Avatar 2, which is set to premiere at that time. But then James Cameron pushed it back because, let's be honest, Avatar 2 is never going to get made at this point. It has been almost a decade since Avatar was originally made, and 2009, and I really don't know even if it came out. Even if it came out in 2017 on Play, I don't know if anybody would care. You know, Star Wars, Avatar. I don't know. I liked the technical achievements of Avatar, even though, and I enjoyed it for what it was, which was a phenomenally directed action movie. But I never asked for a sequel, and I never asked for a sequel 8 years after the first one. I don't know. I just don't think Avatar is relevant enough to really fulfill those fears that it's going to outdo Star Wars. Now, of course, Star Wars Force Awakens is not going. They're predicting it's not going to top Avatar in terms of best performing movie or highest grossing film of all time. But again, sequels. No guarantee.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know. And Avatar 2, that's cool. I mean, I liked the first one. And the second one, okay, we'll see what happens with that one. The Star Wars rewrite, well, I'm glad that they're taking the time because maybe there was some questions that were brought up. Maybe there were some loose ends or something. And they said, well, why don't we fix this right now while we can? And so good, they're still trying to do it right and trying to make it better than the Force Awakens, and I'm happy to hear about that. Also too, I think the moving it to December is a good thing also because look at look how it just took off this past December. Look how the Force Awakens took off, in December just before Christmas, and
definitely.
I mean. It shot off like a rocket. I mean, it broke records within the first day, or before it even came out.
It set the record for biggest pre-sales like ever.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was already at 100 million or something before it even opened.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah,
I am not looking forward. Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say I'm not looking forward to waiting in that line though. I waited in the line in December and it was really cold, and I'm like, costume readjustment.
You don't Fandango? Yeah.
Oh no, that was with the Fandango.
That was the opening.
Yeah. Anyway, go on, Mark. I didn't mean to interrupt there. I was just like, cold.
Yeah, and a lot of people are miffed that, and I remember J.J. Abrams talking about this, and early in the year that Star Wars is best served as a summer movie, but it seems like, and of course you can't logically be like, well, we're going to push it back to May of 2018, because that would just incur another riot. But it's interesting because it almost seems in a lot of ways that December might be the new kind of permanent home for Star Wars, with May and the summer being the permanent home for most Marvel movies going forward. And I don't know. I don't necessarily feel one way or another about it, but as long as I keep getting more damn good Star Wars movies, I am perfectly fine.
Oh yeah, the same thing here, and also too some good Star Wars toys.
Yeah, well, Rey is of course they've responded in kind to everyone's concern. Rey is not getting represented, and the next wave is full of Rey stuff, like Rey everything. So if they could just get Black Widow and everyone else from Marvel represented, get some Carol Danvers stuff finally, that would just make me happy. Of course, I got my two giant vinyl sculpture Rocket and Groot, so I'm perfectly happy on the collectible side anyway. So. Just keep it coming, guys. Keep it coming, Funko. Oh my God.
What was it? Speaking of Funko, I got my second.
Oh yeah, it's that time.
Bounty. Yeah.
And that one actually looked a little better.
I guess it kind of depends on whether you think I like my C3. Yes. No, granted. I love that there were no chasers this time.
Mm-hmm.
I think people got variations on the T-shirts, but I'm totally okay with that, especially since it was a flocked Chewbacca.
Mm-hmm. And that one was really cool, and I saw that before I saw the actual unboxing. People were showing some of the people were Instagramming Winter Han and flocked Chewbacca in the snow, and I'm like, where the hell do I get that thing?
And my husband looked at the flocked Chewbacca, and he's like, I like that one. He doesn't really like my other pop vinyls, but when I showed him Chewbacca, he's like, I like that one. So I'm really happy with that.
Good.
And I love my shirt.
That's the best test if the other half likes it.
Yeah, I love my shirt to pieces. It's a Funko version of all of the new Force Awakens characters. It's a Force Awakens t-shirt, and oh my gosh, I not that I didn't like my Snowtrooper shirt, but man, I like this one so much more.
I think it's interesting too that this is basically Force Awakens Part 2 for the boxes, because they're very and they also when did you get the first one?
It would have been November.
Okay, so they're still following the Marvel Collector Corps style of doing it like every other month, but it's interesting because Collector Corps is very, very explicit into not repeating themes. to the extent that sometimes they'll pull themes out of a hat. Like, obviously, the one in February is going to be Deadpool, because it's got to be Deadpool, for God's sake. But it seemed like between Ant-Man and Secret Wars, it was like, well, we'll do villains because we can't think of anything else to do. So it's going to be interesting to see how they shake that up going forward with Star Wars, because especially with this new continuity, there's not too many themes you can get into. Because originally you could do, because if it was like, let's say, the expanded universe, you could do like an Old Republic box, you could do like a Jedi Council box, which I guess you could still do in a lot of ways. But there's not enough to choose from, and they may. It sounds like did they mention a theme or anything on the box? Did it have it? Because like the Collector Core boxes will have this big bold lettering that says like Guardians of the Galaxy on it or something like that. Did it have any kind of theme?
Yeah, I believe on the inside there is a mentions that it is the Resistance box.
Okay.
But I believe that's the only indication, though, of what box. Well, and obviously the person on the box. So it was BB-8 this time around, nice. And I was really excited because my patch, because you get a patch and a pin, my patch was BB-8.
Nice.
And I was excited about that too. I was like, yes.
More BB-8 is always a good thing. That's interesting. It'd be interesting to see more. It'd be interesting to see themes based on that. Like maybe they'll have a First Order box. Maybe they'll have a Maz's Castle box, because they already have pops of like the Crimson Corsair and a few of the other characters you kind of see randomly in there. It'd be kind of interesting to see maybe not like broad themes, but like smaller themes. You know, aliens or something. I don't know.
Well, they could always do they can always do like the pirate gangs. I think there's a lot of room for the boxes. I really do.
There's a lot of potential, yeah.
Yeah, and I can see them, and I can definitely see them not following in Marvel's footsteps. Yeah. I mean, Marvel kind of has to do that because of all the things it has to cover. Star Wars, though, I mean, if I ended up with 2 Resistance boxes, I'm not going to be upset, because in one of them I get Chewbacca, and then in the other one I'm going to get like Poe or Leia or that droid that they had. I wouldn't be upset.
Or that droid they had.
The blue one, the one that kind of looks like his spine's been a little bent. He walks funny.
The big blue one, yeah.
Yeah.
Or that hulking, Visual Dictionary, that big red droid they see when they first go into Maz's castle is a is a quote-unquote jovial cargo loading droid. I want this thing to have its own movie. I want to see it. I want to see the adventures of a jovial loading droid.
Oh, man.
I'm okay with that. But speaking of judging things too early, what other news? Oh, Suicide Squad. We'll talk about that in a minute. But speaking of judging things too early, have you guys seen the Assassin's Creed photo that they released?
I've seen some pictures.
Yeah, of course it's big. Ubisoft, interestingly, is producing it themselves. I don't think they've released any kind of trailer or anything, but what they have released are a couple of images from the movie. Of course, Michael Fassbender is playing. Does he have a name? He's playing Aguilar, a 15th century Spanish assassin. If I don't pronounce my Spanish right, forgive me. And his present day descendant, Caleb Lynch. So he's playing 2 different characters. That's interesting. Just good genes, man. Good genes. Of course, this follows in. If anybody follows Assassin's Creed, I have not. That's my confession. I have. My wife bought Assassin's Creed Syndicate over the week, and I've been playing the hell out of that. It's my very first Assassin's Creed. But it has an X-File-ish, very science fiction mythology, right? It's this age-old fight between this assassins group and the Templars, who are trying to basically control the world. And this movie apparently fits into that. It's not an adaptation of like the first movie. It's their own. They're doing their own thing that kind of adds to it, but isn't necessarily like, yes, you've seen this person before. Which is all well and good. I think that's the way movies should be. which I don't think they've ever done. You see like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and Resident Evil, all of which are kind of infamous for doing riffs on their respective games. They're always their own little thing and always doing things just a little too differently. Mario Brothers from the '90s. Ugh. Anybody remember that heaping pile of garbage?
I love Bob Hoskins. I'm just gonna say that right now. So I enjoy that movie for his sake, but that's probably the only reason I will suffer through that movie.
It's on a double feature with the Twilight trilogy and the Ninth Circle of Hell. You have to watch that for 100 years, and then when you get done with that, they give you a giant Rubik's Cube. True story. But no, people are absolutely freaking out about Assassin's Creed the movie because of a single image that doesn't show really anything. It is, I'm assuming Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard. I want to say that's who it is. Yeah, basically doing nothing. It shows them in their costume, kind of looking over a sand dune or a hill. I'm assuming doing what the assassins do in the game, which is taking it all in before they go and murder everybody. But people are massively prejudging the film based on one image. What do you guys think?
I don't think they should do that. You know, I mean,
it's like don't do that.
Yeah, they're probably saying to themselves, "Oh no, another video game to movie coming out, and this is going to be horrible." And you know, I mean, they can't really make a prediction that soon, just based on an image that doesn't show anything.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because people have not, people. I mean, they pre-release images all the time, right? They have. Of course, they have one for Rogue One that they've circulated forever and ever and ever and ever, and they haven't released anything else with the movie. But I don't remember anybody reacting to that to the same extent. You know what I mean? There was a rise when they released images from Marvel, when the Entertainment Weekly showed their first kind of images of Ultron and Civil War. People are reacting to that, but it wasn't really judging it as a terrible movie more than they were being like, oh, what is this scene? You know, randomly speculating over what it means and what's going to happen, and doing the usual fan thing of trying to figure out what's going on based on a single frame out of a single movie. And this one's just gotten vitriol. They say the costume's not right. They say the actors are bad. Of course, Michael Fassbender is not necessarily Spanish, but whatever. But they're saying like the costume's bad. They're saying it's going to be a terrible movie.
When has a Hollywood movie properly cast the ethnicity of a character seriously?
Exactly, yes.
Exactly.
I mean, if Michael Fassbender wasn't Spanish, then Charlize Theron should be Japanese. I mean, seriously, no new news there.
Yeah. And what about the casting they did for it? And the guy that played Colossus, I can't think of his name, but I mean, had no Russian accent or nothing. I mean, and they're gonna complain about this.
Yeah.
I mean, give the movie a chance. I think they're gonna start doing games to movies right now, and they're gonna start being better.
Yeah, as we mentioned.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Actually, that comes out at Christmas, 12/21. Look at that. So not too long to figure out if it's good or bad or what. But yeah, that was one of our first topics in one of our original episodes. People are bound to get tired. Maybe this year, maybe 15 years from now. But eventually, people are going to get tired of just superhero movies all the time. Eventually they're going to get tired of Fantastic Four reboots. Is what I'm trying to say. But video games are kind of a genre that feeds into that feeds into that kind of same fan base and gets them in it, and especially if it's made really damn good, then why not? And I think Assassin's Creed is not necessarily the movie people would have chosen if you'd put it to a vote for what kind of movie, what kind of or maybe what kind of video game movie they would want to see. But I think in terms of what it can do, I think Assassin's Creed, if they put as much work into it as they do in into the games, because they go out and they hire architects and historians and everybody make sure it's painstakingly detailed in all of their games, even if it glitches like Assassin's Creed Unity, which we're not going to poke fun at, even though it just did. They're still beautifully created games, and I think if they put as much work into that as they do into the actual games, I think it's going to be fantastic. It may not be what the fans expect, but if it's good, then I think everybody profits from that.
Oh yeah, Assassin's Creed has a really good chance of having some really beautiful cinematography in it too.
Oh, definitely.
You know, if they do that, you know, and I hope they do. I really hope they do. And I mean, visually, it can be wonderful. It can be astounding, you know. And I like Michael Fassbender. I think it's a good choice.
Michael Fassbender
really...
can do no wrong in my book. I have very rarely seen him. Or actually, I have never seen him in a role where I'm just like, this is just awful. So.
Well, yeah, you know, I like him as Magneto. You know, he's done a really good job, and I can't wait to see him in Apocalypse. And him playing this video game character, I think it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to be fantastic. And let's be honest, I mean, Assassin's Creed doesn't really, from what I've seen, that mythology is just really drawn out. I think there's a lot of ways to spell it out and push it forward in a way that honors the source material and also makes it better at the same time, because it is a little bit convoluted. So hopefully this will be a push for them to kind of rein that in, and maybe this would be, because Assassin's Creed as far as games is kind of like the McDonald's of video games. They crank one out every year, which I think the only ones that really do that consistently are sports games. So Assassin's Creed does a lot, but it'd be interesting to see what their answer to making a game this year is with the movie coming out. If it's going to tie in or be a movie game or a I don't think they would do that. You know, play the game and spoil your own movie, but it would be kind of interesting to see how much synergy Ubisoft is going to give themselves, because since they're working directly in producing the movie and also producing the game. So we'll see. Well, we've got 10 months to speculate, and of course they're going to release more in the meantime.
I actually have a really good segue here.
Do you now?
I do. You know what picture people really reacted to negatively before anything about the movie came out?
Is it Suicide Squad?
It's Suicide Squad.
Actually, I remember them reacting to a couple of them negatively. Which one are you talking about?
But yeah, most specifically the Jared Leto as the Joker photo.
Oh gosh.
It was one of the first ones to pop out that they were just like, and I heard similar complaints. There are some people who are just convinced that the role isn't good. So it's going to be interesting to see if Jared Leto just makes everybody go, huh.
I feel like Batman and the Joker have always gotten a really bad rap for no matter who they cast. I don't remember because I was like 5 years old, but I remember people hearing stories with Michael Keaton and
Yes.
Jack Nicholson, being cast, because they were expecting at that time, they're expecting Batman to still be like the campy Adam West type Batman, and they're like, what are you doing with Michael Keaton? I mean, this guy's Beetlejuice. What the hell are you doing? And Jack Nicholson, they're like, why is Jack Nicholson the Joker? He's supposed to be this wild guy with a hat with a painted over mustache, and and then they blew it out of the water. And there's almost the same exact thing with Kristen Bell and Heath Ledger. They're like, what are you doing with Heath Ledger? He's no Joker. American Psycho should never be Batman, and they blew it out of the water. And it seems like yet again history is repeating itself. And they're like, what the hell are you doing, Jared Leto, Ben Affleck?
Oh yeah.
Freaking Daredevil is Batman. What are you doing? So and the reaction, like you said, has been very negative. It's also been very positive. It's interesting because with that kind of fanfare, just like with Star Wars, there's extreme hatred and extreme positivity. There's like almost no in between. There are a lot of people who are showing frame by frame comparisons with shots from the Suicide Squad trailer with classic artwork of the Joker in almost the same poses, and there were people saying that Jared Leto is never going to be the Joker. What are they doing? And then there are people on the other side saying that Jared Leto is probably the most accurate Joker they've had in a while, the tattoos notwithstanding. So, and Jared Leto is, I think he's a very underappreciated actor.
Oh, incredibly underappreciated. I would absolutely agree with that.
And I think and I think because of that, he's in kind of the same shoes Heath Ledger was, because I think people remember Heath Ledger retroactively. They're like, oh my God, he was such a good actor. It's such a tragic loss. But I don't remember people hailing. And of course, I may have been in the wrong circles, but I don't remember people hailing Heath Ledger as this visionary actor when he was alive, and especially before the Joker. And you're kind of experiencing the same thing with Jared Leto. Jack Nicholson, of course, was already well established as an actor before Tim Burton and Batman, so you can't really compare him. But the most recent ones are kind of following the same trends.
Oh yeah, I remember when. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I remember when Batman first came out. There was a lot of, with Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton, he's a comedian. He's a comedic actor. What they doing casting him as Batman, and I said the same thing. And then when I saw the movie, I was like, man, he played a really good Batman. I liked it, and going in there to see the movie when Jack Nicholson playing the Joker, I thought it was perfect. Even before I saw the movie, I was like, Jack Nicholson, all right, he's gonna play the Joker. That's perfect for him, and that's what really made me want to see the movie even more. And so yeah, it was good. I give it that.
Yeah, and I think as we talked about in a few previous episodes, there are certain movies like Batman. Like Batman, Star Wars, of course, who kind of embody the decade they're made in, for better or for worse. And if you look at the way Batman was made in 1985, and then you look at Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, they're very indicative with their choice of actors, their choice of stories. They're very indicative of the time period they're made in. And I think Jared Leto, in a lot of ways, is that yet again. He's very hipsterish. He's very crazy. He's not your predictable Joker, but if you look at the time and sensibilities it's in, and you look at the way the Joker's being handled with Scott Snyder and Batman, it makes a lot of sense, because Joker is an absolute force of chaos in the comics, and I think Jared Leto is just nuts enough to do that in the movies as well, which is never a bad thing with the Joker. He is an absolute force of anarchy, as he should be. But I think it's going to be interesting bringing him out. I'm watching the trailer while we're talking. But I think it's going to be interesting how they handle him in the movies, because Batman is kind of the DC universe's Iron Man in a lot of ways, with how they handle it. But Scott Snyder uses Joker kind of how Kasdan used the Millennium Falcon in Empire Strikes Back. He brings him out for very specific purposes, for very specific meanings and symbols. And it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that in the movies too. If Joker's just going to be the anti-star, or if he's going to serve specific purposes. And I think Suicide Squad is going to go a long way in establishing that kind of status quo too, which is exciting.
I think I was reading an article, and one of the comments that struck most with me, it was a design article talking about how drastically different the design for Suicide Squad is from Batman vs. Superman.
Oh yeah, the advertising is just so different.
And how they really, basically, the article was an overall, not a diss towards how they've been marketing Batman and Superman, but just saying that what it was trying to argue was that was the reason that the Batman and Superman movies have not been doing well. They don't invoke the same type of emotions and getting people pumped about things. They kind of just take it at face value. It's like, look, here's a Superman movie. Everybody's gonna come. Yeah.
I think Iron Nine said it in a lot of. I think Iron Nine said it differently, but basically the same sentiment. And they said that. Well, they had one that said for once they're more excited about DC than Marvel, but also it seems like these are multi-layered characters in a lot of ways. You know, they're obviously having fun with what they do because they're crazy and they get to run amok, and the advertising reflects that. But they all have different personalities. They're all teamed up. But but the fact they have personalities is what makes you care about this movie more than Batman versus Superman, because all we've seen so far is this very and by extension the Wonder Woman movie shows more of her personality, but the Batman versus Superman movie, everyone's so, and this is an indictment on Zack Snyder for all of his movies. They always seem just way up their ass, super duper serious no matter what movie he's making. And it shows to a fault with Batman versus Superman. I think that's doing it a really bad disservice.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean it doesn't look like it's gonna have like any kind of humor like the Avengers did, Is that
it's weird because Batman versus Superman, like they're setting up to be this super serious movie, and then they have scenes where obviously they're trying to inject some humor into it, like the new trailer where Doomsday pops out and Wonder Woman basically saves Batman's ass, and Superman's like, "Is she with you?" And Batman just goes, "I thought she was with you." And then it shows another smaller trailer where, or another clip where Superman rips the lid of the cockpit of the Batmobile out, and Batman stands up. That apparently has a quip in it as well. And a lot of people are saying, for such a movie that's directed by Zack Snyder, which feels so serious, you have Batman and Superman going to war with each other as a consequence to Man of Steel, which in itself was a super serious movie in a lot of ways, as Batman or Superman's trying to figure out who he is as a man and his purpose of being Superman. Basically his Batman Begins. It's very serious. This movie's carrying the same tone of that, which is serious, but it's not fitting into the humor they're trying to inject. And a lot of people are saying that that's a clash, a culture clash that they don't, they're not connecting with it. It's like it's probably gonna make sense in a whole movie to me, and I'm gonna give it a chance. But a lot of people are just sitting there like, I don't get it. And I think that's going to ultimately harm them in a lot of ways, depending on the just based solely on the marketing. It's very monotone, it's very very subdued, and then you have Suicide Squad, which is loud, it's colorful, it's got Harley Quinn's face as a skull, it's got neon green everywhere, and it's just such a stark contrast, especially since they're sharing the same universe, and it doesn't have to have the same tone between movies, between characters. I mean, you see Civil War, the Russo brothers are already saying that there's going to be humor in it because some people like Ant-Man per se are not carrying the same emotional baggage as people who have been in the Avengers for years. Guardians of the Galaxy was basically a comedy in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So it's not like they can't coexist, but it's never felt like there's been such a sharp contrast between two movies in the same universe before. Especially since Batman's going to appear in Suicide Squad as well. That's going to be interesting.
Oh yeah,
that scene where he's capturing the Joker and Harley on the big shiny purple Lamborghini, and it's going to be interesting to see how Batman reacts to that situation.
Yeah, well, I think Batman versus Superman is going to be a big surprise. I'm sure there's going to be more humor in there somewhere, especially when Cyborg and Flash and Aquaman come out, there's a lot more into the movie that, that I think they're keeping in wraps really well.
Yeah, and of course we're going back to the thing, we're judging a movie based on 3 minutes of footage all told before it comes out in March. But it's weird, and I wonder how much of that has to do with Zack Snyder, because of course the directors have basically no control over the kind of marketing that they're gonna use in a lot of ways. I mean, Colin Trevorrow made a big deal out of that with Jurassic Park. The director of Terminator Genesis had a big issue with them spoiling the fact that John Connor is a Terminator. I'm not gonna say spoiler alert, because if you've watched the trailer, you already knew that. um, but you know, it depends on the director. They don't have much control over it, which it'd be interesting to see how much control Zack Snyder had over Batman versus Superman versus the control they had over Suicide Squad. Ostensibly, he should have more, but it feels like, again, it feels like the way they're marketing it is very contrasty to what the movie's going to be, because I think it's going to be surprised. I think it's going to be natural and well-rounded. I think they're going to put a little too many superheroes in there if Aquaman shows up, like they keep saying. But that's neither here nor there. I think the actual movie itself is going to be a pleasant surprise, and in more ways than one. But the advertising doesn't show that. But Suicide Squad, like, I want to see this now. Like, you see Harley Quinn busting a window, taking a purse. You see Deadshot being Deadshot. You see the Deadshot mask. You see what's her face? Not Zatanna, but the sorceress, who is a classic John Constantine baddie. So I wonder if Constantine's going to show up at some point. You see Harley Quinn being crazy. You see the Joker. You see the prison they're in. It makes you want to see it right now. It's perfectly timed. A Queen of all things, which I never thought would have been a thing. I wonder how much money they paid Queen just for the rights to this movie, just for the rights to put this in a trailer.
The sync on that was it was so good. Oh, that was
the machine guns against
trailer.
It was amazing. But if I had to choose between Batman and Superman and Suicide Squad to watch now, I would watch Suicide Squad, because it just seems like a really entertaining movie compared to what we've seen marketed for Batman and Superman.
Well, and that's exactly the problem is. Now, granted, everybody knows I'm kind of a outside of the rim comic book person. I had something suddenly start talking to me in my ear, and so I was like, oh, disoriented. The thing about it is, you know, and I even grew up with Superman and Batman. I loved the Tim Burton movie. Absolutely, we watched that a lot, and I grew up with the animated. Yeah, I grew up with the animated Batman series. I watched that all the time, so I probably have more familiarity with Batman than I do a lot of these other superheroes. But I just have not been interested. I haven't seen Man of Steel yet. And honestly, I didn't even realize Wonder Woman was going to be in Batman vs. Superman until somebody mentioned it like 2 days ago. Like, I just haven't been excited about it. Now, Suicide Squad, I'm like, that looks fun. And that's the issue, is it can be a good movie, but at the end of the day, you have to market it these things, especially for people like me who aren't, I mean, you can't always depend on the nerds to rally and market themselves and save the movie. I could probably list 100 movies that were mismarketed. One of the movies that absolutely kills me was a wonderful movie called Stardust.
Oh yes.
And you want to talk about a movie
based on an equally wonderful story and graphic novel.
Absolutely. I mean, just such a great movie. It was a beautiful movie, but that marketing ticked me off. Like, after I watched the movie on accident because the marketing didn't interest me. So I watched this movie one random night with a friend of mine who was much smarter than I was and had the movie. And I just was like, oh my god, this movie is amazing. And I looked at the ads and I'm like, that sucked. No wonder I didn't want to see this movie, because they completely mismarketed it. And I'm afraid that's what's going to happen with Batman and Superman. I don't think people are going to rally behind that movie.
Yeah. I think they're assuming that it's interesting because they've kind of shot themselves in the face with a bazooka. Because I think they're assuming Batman and Superman are going to market themselves, and it does in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously, this is obviously based on the classic Frank Miller, Dark Knight series, and in a lot of ways, if someone had been like, well, Suicide Squad, people would be like, what? It's not a popular series of comics to the mainstream. Most people, when they think of comic books, are not going to think of Suicide Squad. And I think they're doing it well by, one, not letting the Joker be the centerpiece of it. If you had to name one centerpiece of it, obviously it would be Harley Quinn. but all of the people in it, it's going to be hard to watch this movie in a lot of ways because a lot of these characters are mainstay Batman characters. You have Killer Croc, you have Deadshot, you have, I think it's Pyro, and Suicide Squad is called Suicide Squad because, you know, they changed the cast out a lot, not because they're quitting the team, it's because they're getting killed while they're doing missions. That's the spin on the story. But they're introducing a relatively obscure team, but they're doing it with characters that if you have any mild interest in Batman or Superman, even, you're going to recognize the people in this story. And I think it's interesting because it's using the synergy that Batman has, and somehow surpassing it in terms of marketing. But I think it's great. People have already started prejudging it, as with everything else, because of apparently the big rumor with Joker is it's going to be a humongous series of flashbacks concerning Harley Quinn and her origin story. And the new trailer seems to point that out because you see her getting thrown into a vat of chemicals, you see the Joker jumping in after and pulling her out, and a lot of people are having really massive issues with that because that is the New 52 version of it, of her origin story, versus the classic animated series origin story where she just kind of went crazy and fell in love with the Joker and decided to be crazy and anarchist like he is, basically because she fell in love with the guy during his therapy sessions. Well, in New 52, Joker kidnaps her, pitches her into a vat of chemicals, and makes her into Harley Quinn versus letting her choose. So she removes her agency as Harley Quinn because she's not choosing it, and she's also as crazy as he is. It's not a sane person choosing to be insane. It's an insane person emulating her Dark Master, basically. And I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think it makes Harley Quinn less of a character to change her origin story, or do you think it's all in the acting? Do you think Margot Robbie could pull it off either way? What do you guys think?
I like it. I like the whole idea. I mean, the whole origin thing. I mean, it's fine. They've been changing everybody's origin.
That's true. Nobody has the same one they started with.
Right, you know, so what's one more character? And they're going to continue to do it, you know? Who knows if Doctor Strange's origins... Or
he's so weird anyway, you could almost change his origin story and explain it away in continuity. And still make sense, because he's so weird anyway.
Yeah, you know, and yeah, the Suicide Squad, yeah, I can understand how you guys feel. I'm really pumped about it, too. I can't wait to see it. You know, and then the whole Batman versus Superman thing. I think what it is a lot of people just don't understand. You know, I hear people say, well, Batman versus Superman. What is this? You know, I thought they were friends. Well, they become friends eventually. You know, this is still the beginning. You know, people still don't understand Superman and you know if he is really here to help us or not. You know, so
yeah, exactly.
People don't understand, you know. In other words, there's not a lot of comic book fans out there. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's modernizing everything. Obviously, this is based on the New 52 era of things, and unfortunately, that's going to dictate a lot of the way they tell stories, which is interesting in a lot of ways because it feels almost like DC in terms of production design and the way everything looks and the way the origin story is being told. It feels like they are beholden to what's in the comics a lot more closely than what Marvel is. You know, when Marvel is making a movie, it's like, yeah, we're taking inspiration from this, but it's going to stand alone as its own thing, and it almost feels like DC is 180 on that. It's like, well, you know, we're going to, you know, if you read the comics, you're going to immediately know that red and pink hair means it's or red and blue hair means it's Harley Quinn. You're going to immediately know. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see how that story is. I do think they kind of missed a ball in a creepy sense by not letting Harley Quinn kind of choose to be Harley Quinn while she's still sane, because I think that somehow makes her more chilling. If she does anything crazy and creepy like the Joker, I think that just makes it a little more scary, knowing there's a perfectly sane person doing that. Because the Joker, in a lot of ways, he's insane. He can't really. He's acting impulsively. He can't really control, in a lot of ways, what he's doing. Which I think is also what made the Joker so damn creepy in Dark Knight. You can tell this guy isn't just crazy. He's just an agent of chaos, but he's very intelligible about what he's doing and why.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I hear about psychiatrists is, they take in so much information from so many people that are just going through so much shit, in their lives and stuff. It starts taking a toll on the psychiatrist alone, and maybe that's what's going to do. Maybe that is what happens to Harley Quinn, and finally with all this, her talking with the Joker and stuff. Yeah, she fell in love with him, but also at the same time too, all the stories and stuff probably finally gets to her too, and finally, this is probably her breaking point.
Yeah, you're right. This could be a again we're judging it based on 3 minutes of footage. It could be a combination thereof. Not everything has to be explained away. Obviously, they're doing a little bit of origin explaining. They're setting it up for that, but it could be both. Maybe this is her emulating the Joker to a crazy, no pun intended, extreme. I mean, we just don't know, do we?
And that's kind of right. Do we know for sure she's following the 52? Because that's immediately what I just thought. I was like, what if they did kind of mix it and try to create a happy little medium for. Now, granted, people aren't going to be happy because you're going to have the people who are into the 52 series being like, oh my god, they changed it, and all the original people going, oh my god, they changed it, and you just can't win.
You got some new 52 in my continuity. But I think that would make it. Again, I think that would make it just a little scarier, in her story. And of course, Suicide Squad. I mean, you have an ensemble cast. They may let the. Hang on. I got an ad playing over my YouTube. You got some ads on my YouTube, but they may let her it may just be a flashback. That may be all you see of her origin story. They may let it boil over into Batman's standalone film. I mean, she may have her own standalone film. We don't know. There's obviously just like Batman versus Superman. There's a lot of people and there's a lot of ground to cover. So it's they're not gonna have a lot of real estate to expose on any one character. So it'd be interesting to see how it happens. Maybe this happens. Maybe she gets thrown in the chemicals and Batman captures everybody and puts them in jail and that's it. Maybe that's how they open the movie. We have no clue. and that's the magic of speculating a movie trailers. Don't judge it on one image. This is bad. Don't be that guy. Speaking of judging, oh sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. I mean, we could probably go on all day about all the movies that were missed, or just anything in general. TV shows are like that too, where you think they're gonna be one way and then you watch them and then they're completely different, and you're like, oh, okay. Ooh, hello?
Hello?
Hello? Oh, hey.
What happened?
Did we lose Robert?
I don't know. Robert, you still there?
What? Technical difficulties.
Again.
No, seriously, my husband and I have to do this. Watch the second episode rule with Korean dramas, because like if you watch the first episode of any Korean drama, you're probably not gonna like the drama, because they're all notoriously just very bad at setup. So you have to watch the second episode to see if you're gonna like the show or not.
Yeah, technical issues. Love it.
There we are.
Wouldn't be a full day without some kind of technical issues. What I missed?
Oh, just how no marketing's ever right.
Oh, never. So and sometimes it's too right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of things that are happening just a little too soon, They've announced they're basically remaking Labyrinth. Have you guys heard about that?
Boo.
Yeah. Of all the things, they're basically saying, "Damn the torpedoes, we're still gonna make it."
Oh my gosh.
I've got issues.
I've
I
got
have
a lot of.
feelings.
Okay, so when they're making remakes, so this is just a general sweeping remake opinion. There are some movies that stand because of their story,
Mm-hmm.
and then there are other movies that stand because of the people who were in the movie. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you arguably look back at a movie and you look at its plot line, you're like, that was not going to be a good movie. But because so-and-so was so-and-so, it turned out okay. Labyrinth is a MF, a mind F of a movie. Oh my god, let's just be honest here.
Actually, Nicole Perlman, who is apparently wrote the script, has responded to people's understandable reaction to that, and saying that it's not rebooting anything. So it could be a spin-off or even a sequel, a la the Return to Labyrinth manga they had a few years ago too.
No, that would be a lot more
Basically, we know something involving Labyrinth doesn't work, but we just don't know what the hell is going on. That's what I get for cycling through Nerdist while I'm looking for things to talk about.
So much more acceptable, because honestly, I mean, the only reason I watched that movie, I was not interested in the story. I was not interested in. I liked seeing David Bowie. I mean, that was what made the movie interesting to me. I wasn't, and Jennifer Connelly also did a very good job. I liked both of them in that movie.
It's great. I mean, Jim Henson, the production design is fantastic. That's one of the things I always love about their movies, be it Mirror Mask or Labyrinth or Dark Crystal or anything. Their production design is always on point. But yeah, if you had gotten anybody else besides David Bowie and arguably Queen to do anything, if it wasn't Freddie Mercury or David Bowie doing that, I don't think it would have stood up, because you needed somebody who was crazy and eccentric to be the Goblin King. It just, basically Bowie is a living Muppet, and it could have been any other way. It's just a perfect storm of circumstances. Despite being financially awful when it came out and demoralizing Jim Henson, but that's another story for another time. Damn it, jaded 80s audience.
I know, right? Yeah.
But the sequel, Return to Labyrinth, was just a really cool movie for what it was, a really cool manga, and a really intriguing story for what it was. Where, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it because it's great, or read it because it's great. The Goblin King basically comes back for Jennifer Connelly's grown-up brother to make him into the new Goblin King. Basically, he wants to retire or getting ready to die or just whatever, and he basically wants him to take his place. So seeing an adaptation of that, or seeing some kind of spin-off based on that, I think would be interesting. Because it's an out-of-print manga, it's really great, and it's a story that's still fresh to a lot of people. But at the same time, it's kind of like people wanting to do the Mrs. Doubtfire sequel after Robin Williams died. It may feel like a cash grab to some people too. So it's a tight wire.
Well, Mrs. Doubtfire arguably is another movie where the storyline probably would have never worked if it wasn't Robin Williams.
Exactly. It was basically tailor-made for the person that was in it.
Yeah, and it's just, and sometimes that's on purpose. Like sometimes people just think of a certain actor in a role, and it works out that way. But then other times, they just get hired in, and now you can't, like Harrison Ford as Han Solo. As much as Harrison doesn't find Han Solo interesting, he made that role what it was. Because if you look at Han Solo, arguably, and that's kind of what Harrison's issue with him is he's kind of on the flat. But Harrison did such a great job with him that everybody loves him, and maybe that's why Harrison's so angry at the character, because he recognizes that the character isn't too special and that people just really love him and not the character. Deep thoughts with Jesse. But but I mean, we see it all, and that's my biggest issue with the current reboot remake stuff is some of the things they're choosing to remake. I don't think the executives have even looked at why it was successful in the first place.
Yeah, and you see that all the time, especially with video games. People have franchises that they just want to cash in on, and then you'll have, the Banjo-Kazooie syndrome, right? It's like we made a sequel, but it's a racer instead of a platformer. And they have this thing, and sometimes it's interesting with reboots because they go a couple different ways. The one is like the straight remake. It's like we're gonna make this frame by frame a resurrection of the original thing that you loved, but somehow we're going to add another spin to it. A great example of that is the new Poltergeist movie, right? It's basically the same exact movie from the 80s, except they now throw in cell phones and tablets and computers, as well as TVs. Basically the same movie, add in a spin. It somehow still did not do better. Thankfully, it's CGI. And then you have RoboCop, who's like, well, we have a name, let's modernize it. Let's make it new. Let's make it RoboCop 2015. Let's update it for every single thing. And they don't think about exactly what you said. They don't think about the heart of the movie. They don't think about why it performs so well, and it ends in tragedy because of that. You don't have the right actors, you don't have the right production design, you don't have the right script, you don't have any of it. And then you have other ones that are kind of like covers of songs, and it's a rare bird when you see it, who reboot something, but they put their own riff on it, and it's fantastic. But it's kind of like finding Sasquatch in the woods. It's so rare.
Yeah, a lot of these remakes. It's old already, and you hear people complaining, saying what the ideas, and why can't they just do something new? And yeah, it is.
Everything old is new again.
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to say about Harrison Ford and Han Solo. He wasn't originally casted to play Han Solo. George Lucas only called him just to do the reading with the cast, and George Lucas liked him. Yeah, he liked him so much, he went ahead and told him, yeah, why don't you go ahead and play the part, for the movie. So, yeah,
if you've ever seen the AFI tribute to George Lucas, Harrison Ford mentions that to great extent, because apparently George Lucas had a thing against rehiring actors. Like, he wanted different actors in every movie. So since Harrison had already been in American Graffiti, he didn't want Harrison Ford in it. And so he just happened to stumble into the Han Solo movie. But then the same thing happened for Indiana Jones. George Lucas didn't want Harrison in it because he had already been in Star Wars. And so Tom Selleck had actually been the number one who they wanted in the movie.
Yeah.
In the movie. But Tom Selleck couldn't do it because of his TV show. I think it was Matt. Yeah. Is it who? What? And so, yeah. And then so they were like, okay, well, we have Harrison. But the two biggest franchises that Harrison Ford was in, he got in by complete accident, and he mentions that in his AFI speech to George Lucas, and it's hilarious.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, you have to. It's so good because and it's interesting, the timing, because I think it was right after Revenge of the Sith. So, I mean, Carrie, obviously, you could still see she had some problems with things. There was no Force Awakens even on the itinerary. They thought they were done with all of the Star Wars stuff. So, it's an interesting, tribute thing, because there's a lot of context in, the speeches and everything that if you have no idea what's going on with Star Wars, you would have completely missed. But it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. stormtroopers doing the can. It's just great stuff. William Shatner hosts it.
Oh, William Shatner.
So he comes out on stage and he's like, Star Trek changed life as we know it. And then he looks around.
In his classic Shatner voice, no doubt.
Yes. And he looks around and he sees all the Star Wars stuff and he's like, Star Wars? And so he tries to leave and the stormtroopers stop him and he's like, okay, I can do Star Wars. And so he goes into a rendition of I Did It My Way.
That's fantastic.
Oh, it's good. I highly recommend the AFI tribute to George Lucas. So I have it on VHS.
Nice.
You know if it's
recorded.
That's easier to find than the holiday special, which apparently Lucasfilm is trying everything in its power to erase it from the history of the universe.
To George, I am actually looking. Let's see what we got here.
I can't remember. I think it was Stuff You Should Know did an excellent podcast explaining the history of the holiday special. And it basically boiled down to that's what happens when George Lucas gives a bunch of vaudevillians free reign to make a Star Wars special and doesn't really check in during the entire production. That's pretty true, actually. But no, going back to the remake, I was reading through movies because I know I've heard this before. But Takashi Shimizu, to illustrate how bad remakes can be, directed Ju-on, and then he turned around and remade a shot-for-shot version of it, which of course is The Grudge, shot-for-shot remake from the same director, and it still didn't do as good as the original. Even though it was a damn good movie. Both versions are, but it's interesting.
Well, that's just like when in the 90s when they did that shot for shot of Psycho, like literally.
Or Night of the Living Dead. It was the decade for like shot for shot remakes apparently.
But I have the William Shatner opening up in Google Hangouts, so if you want to check that out at your leisure.
Yes.
And I'm still trying to figure out if I can find the whole thing.
Kotaku apparently is obsessed with Neko Atsumi because they ranked the cats.
Oh, you can. Hold on. What is this madness?
Kotaku.
Which one was it?
Kotaku. I'm looking for my comment button. But no, they ranked the goddamn cats from best to worst. That's fantastic.
Yes.
I love blogs. I love the internets.
Oh, but I'm very, very
really
excited.
Slow week.
Tubbs is the bastard of a cat who ruins friendships.
Tubbs is apparently the most popular cat in the game because he's the only plushie you can buy. So there. I just like how I checked into the game and I found a cat named Gozer. And I Instagrammed it earlier, and I'm like, so which one's the Keymaster?
I still haven't gotten a picture of Gozer. He's the one. I'm taking it slow. I know that Tubbs eats all the food, so I'm trying to get as many cats on Thrifty Bits as I can.
Nice.
So that when did I just find Gozer?
Which for the uninitiated, I think is basically their version of Friskies.
Oh, nope, that's Misty. Okay, hold on here. I thought I actually had Gozer. I would have been so happy. But no, I'm trying. I'm probably the only person who has the patience to deal with what I'm trying to do because I've got my toys out and I've got Thrifty Bits, which is the cheap stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know I'm not going to get all of the cats with just Thrifty Bits, but I'm trying to do as well as I can so that when Tubbs starts showing up, he doesn't need everything.
Yeah. So. For anybody who hasn't figured it out, Tubbs is a gigantically fat cat who, if you leave your food out long enough, especially if you spend all of your money, be it real or fictional, on sushi and stuff like I do, he'll show up and eat all the fucking food. So
which means no cats
none of the
can
other cats eat it, and then they leave.
Yeah. So and the thing about it is if you have no food out, you don't get cats. So this is a game.
Therefore, you fail at life in the game.
Yeah,
because
you have to.
You play the role of a crazy cat lady, basically, but on your phone.
But you have to wait like 15 minutes for the cats to come back. I mean, it can be a major time killer, little bastard. I'm not looking forward to him.
Marcus is so quiet right now. He's like, I don't have a horse. No. He's like, I don't have a cat in this race.
I don't have any cats at it, actually.
Yeah, but the unexpected / massively expected Japanese game of life is, of course, a game about collecting cats. So popular in Japan. I mean, you can apparently they have invaded the UFO catchers, where you of course it's the claw grabbing machines that are infamous for having Final Fantasy toys that we will never get here. Apparently, they're full of Neko Cat Cats, and most of them are Tubbs the fat cat. Who, of course, is the biggest cat in the machine, which basically means you'll never grab him. Especially with those 2-clawed UFO machines. Those things are dumb. I tried one. Walmart had installed one inexplicably in the Walmart I go to, and I was trying. But it's got like 2 pinchers, like space robot claws from the 1950s, and instead of the 3rd claw, and they just absolutely, like, I haven't mastered the technique. I can't grab anything.
You're not supposed to. I mean,
no, it really is. Like they're stupidly rigged. Yeah. Like, according to the value, someone actually did a study on it, and they said the odds of getting, like, the ones that have cell phones in them and stuff, the odds of getting anything are like 1 in 750,000. So you basically win the lottery more than you could get a toy out of that machine. So, yeah, I mean, when the guidebook to a claw machine includes a section on how to basically rig your machine for so people don't get all of your crap, you know it's kind of a thrown game, like right out of the gate. But yet I'll still try every way. My favorite claw machine memory was Sindel had the flu. And she was on some, like, doctor prescribed medication, like the kind that, like, you can't drive cars with. And we ate Mexican or something, and I came out and she's randomly playing the claw machine, and she has a Spock doll by the foot, and gets it right at it gives you that hope. It gets right to the top and then jolts it and drops it. And that happened, and she turns around and she looks like so crushed. Like a kid who just watched his dog get hit by a car, crushed, and she's like, I almost had it. She's like, I almost had it. And I'm just like, and I'm just trying to edge her away. I'm like, it's okay. We can go home. There's Netflix. It's fine. And she's like, no, I was so close. She would kill me if she knew I was talking about this. Assassin's Creed style. I bet she's still playing that right now. We're augmenting Assassin's Creed Syndicate 2-player because you can play as a set of twins, and I'm playing as one and she's playing as the other. So whatever. Well, cool. It has been a busy week. It looks like it is yet another good year to be a geek and to be a fan of anything geek related. And hopefully we'll see more. I'm Scott Snyder, of course, is the showrunner for Batman the comic book series, and he has a fantastic subseries. Actually, he has a few. He writes a series of horror style books. One is Witches, but the other one is American Vampire. where it's basically told every volume is a different decade. Basically, these different species of vampires that go to war, and allegedly Vertigo's in talks to make a TV show out of it. So you bet your ass I'm going to report on that when it happens, because that is my reading obsession right now. It's a fantastic thing. I'm on volume 8, and of course it's the 60s, so of course vampires have to go to space, so shit may start falling apart, but it's been a fantastic 7 volumes beforehand. But Scott Snyder, man, he's just, I love him. I don't like that Batman is reverting back to Bruce Wayne over Jim Gordon, but I knew that was transitory and it was bound to happen, but I didn't expect it to happen so soon. But I can't fault him for doing that, because his dark overlords at DC probably are like, no, you have to do it. But his writing is absolutely outstanding. Anyway, so if you, dear listeners, like what we've been talking about, like, comment, subscribe. You know where to find us, and we will see you next Sunday. As always, you can find previous recordings on YouTube and eventually on SoundCloud once we get the pricing worked out. And until then, we'll see you next time.
See ya.
See ya.